right, Kendrick Wells, how's it going?
What's up, Cam?
Hey, just up here, man. You know, so a lot of people might not know you. Um, Tupac's close friend,
I am.
personal assistant.
I was a very close friend of Tupac. I was his assistant for a short while, but we were friends for years. Probably from '89 to '96, and yeah, till right before he succumbed.
Okay, how'd you guys meet?
Wow, that's interesting. We knew each other before we actually met. I had a girlfriend that told me all this stuff about this kid who used to tap dance and do plays and also rap and that was just really interesting and really an awesome dude. And I was the guy who was kind of popular in Marin County. Marin County was this. It's like it's kind of like a white world. There's a lot of white people, but there's a small black community, and that black community adopted me, and me and my friends from that community spread out, and we got in trouble for mingling with all the white people back then, and we were getting into all kinds of shenanigans, and there was a cat named DJ Clark Gable, and he used to throw shows, and all his rappers under his little platform used to get together, and Tupac became one of those rappers. And DJ Clark Gable invited me to one of his parties in Nevada. That's northern Marin. And I went and I saw Tupac there. As soon as I saw him, I knew who he was. And we just ran right to each other like magnets. We're like, "What's up, man? I heard about you. I heard about you." We hugged like we were brothers. And from there, we were like inseparable. It's like, that was my dude. It's like, he respected where I was coming from, the things I had been through. He heard a little bit about me, and same with him. I had heard about him, and his personality was through the roof. It's like, this dude is different, and this dude respects my different. And it was cool, and that's how it was. So we met at a house party in Nevada, maybe around 89 or 90, and we were friends ever since.
Was he already rapping at this time?
Yeah, he was going by the handle of MC New York. He was, I call it Afrocentric. Back in that era, we had a positive awareness going on. Rap was either storytell rap, or rap was like, gangster rap wasn't hitting so hard yet. NWA was just kind of like jumping into it, but it was a lot of knowledge rap, and Tupac kind of leaned on that. Tupac was part of the Young Black Panther Party, and his knowledge of black issues and history was off the chain. And us in California, it's like, man, give us a bag, give us a way to make some money, give us a way for these people to stop fucking with us, give us a way to be cool and independent. That's all we care about. Parties, all that kind of stuff. And he was talking knowledge about how, your situation ain't right. He was telling us, to get low about laws, why we were being oppressed. He was very knowledgeable, and he knew his African history to the T. So when I met him then, he was more about that. His raps were very, they would teach you. They would teach you about Africa. They would teach you about black issues. They told a purpose. His style, he sounded kind of like MC Ren back then, but he was coming like KRS-One. He was a whole different rapper than everybody got to see.
Was he writing battle raps?
He was. he one of the guys in his crew was MC Ryan D, and those two used to go at it, Pac and him. But he wrote a lot of battle raps. I mean, that's what rapping was back then. It's like you kill him, he kills him. It was just slaying people on the microphone. It was showing your prowess with the microphone, and he was the best. I mean, Anybody who went at him got destroyed. He had people, he ate them up so bad, they would fight him or want to fight him or hit him because that's all they knew.
You guys got in fights over battle raps?
He did. I've never been in a fight over a battle rap, but yeah, there's people who stole on him. You know.
Tell me a story.
Well, without saying the guy's name, him and the guy went at it. They rapped at each other, and Tupac just humiliated him and ate him up, and the guy just fucking started hitting him and kind of chased him. Tupac wasn't a great fighter back then. Tupac was just a masterful lyricist, poet, rapper, and he had other arts that he did. But, you know, he wasn't a fighter. So this guy kind of took advantage of it and beat him up. Later on, Tupac could fight. I seen him throw those things pretty good towards the end, but 6 years earlier, no. And
was this guy known? Is this guy somebody we would know?
No, and I wouldn't mention his name anyway. Oh. Sorry.
Well, I was just
yeah.
Just wondering if he's known.
Yeah,
that's
but
all.
He knows now, and I think Tupac would whoop his ass now as he became a man.
Okay. Okay. So he battled a lot.
Oh yeah, that's what they did. You know, the One Nation MCs, they wrote good positive raps, and they wrote family orientated stuff, but they also battle rapped, and they battle rapped each other, and they battle rapped others. It was a good battle rapper. You know, I wouldn't want to go against him, and you know, that was his thing. And back then, if you were a rapper, you had to be able to spit in front of people and against people. And Tupac was one of the best. And like as I told you, yeah, some people didn't like it. But
what would he say about? Would he talk about their clothes, or what was the battle rapping like back then?
It kind of was. It was kind of like the dozens you might see on Nick Cannon shows or something like that. But it was more intense because it was like you had to sound like a professional MC. You couldn't go with written stuff. It all came from the head, and yeah, it was you developing your character, who you are, and I think he was one of the best at it.
So at one point, he recorded his first song. What was that song?
Oh, Days of a Criminal. That was his first recording. They had demoed stuff, him and Clark Gable and the One Nation MCs. They had demoed stuff. But before then, the only person who actually put out a record was a guy named Ant Dog. He was a rapper from the jungle, and he was gathering fame, and he had worked with DJ Clark Gable. And there was a group of guys who wanted Tupac to write them a rap. They knew that he was a rapper, and they had all the money. They were like drug dealers, and they had all the money, and they paid him to write them a rap. Gable made the beat, and Tupac wrote 4 verses for the song called Days of a Criminal. These guys commissioned Tupac to write a song called Days of a Criminal, and Gable made this sick beat. It was just funky. And Tupac wrote 4 different verses in 4 different styles for these guys. You know, he was going to rap on it, and then they were going to go back and sing it. So he was ghostwriting it. And in the process of him just spitting the raps, which was nothing to him, but remarkable to everybody else, this song Days of a Criminal leaked out to our community. And everybody heard it. Everybody's like, damn. You know, that's when he kind of made his mark. Everybody knew he was good because, like I said, we met at a party, and he performed live, and everybody knew he was very, very big with a mic during live. But once he recorded, people were like, oh shit. And he hit that Days of a Criminal, and it just grew. I think the Bay Area, different people in the Bay Area were bootlegging that tape. You know, like, oh man, the guys never even got on it. Like, if you ever hear the song, it's gonna talk about Wiz and different people. They never even finished their verses. Denka and those cats never finished their verses. And the song became infamous with the 4 verses that Tupac spit for those guys. And a funny story is back in the day, KML, which was a hip hop radio station during one of its phases, and they used to have this battle hour, like 5 o'clock at night. You'd go on, and whoever was the best rapper in the Bay Area would come on and battle rap somebody else. And this was a rap that Tupac had wrote for somebody else. Tupac wrote this for a few guys, and then people had heard it, and then some guy copied it, went on the radio, spit it, pretending like he wrote it. And I was in the car with Tupac, and we were listening to the battle rap like we always did. And this guy came on rapping verbatim, Days of a Criminal. Tupac lost his mind. I mean, you could see the excitement of seeing, hey, there's my song on the radio. To let's call the radio station, to get my song off the radio, to, he never got through. He wasn't that big yet, but that was kind of like when we saw the doors open. When that song got made, somebody copied it, we heard it on the radio, that kind of like cemented what we already knew.
Did you guys ever find the guy?
No, don't know who he was.
Don't know who he was.
We weren't big enough. Like the Tupac that he became, could have probably called and found out who that was, and maybe, gave him an autograph or something. But back then, it was just like Tupac wasn't anybody. He had hooked up with Digital Underground recently, but he wasn't the man yet.
Who were the first people that he got hooked up with in music?
Well, I don't know who he affiliated with in New York. I'm sure it's been chronicled. Maybe, people know. I don't know. But I remember as MC New York, he came out to Marin City, and he got with Clark Gable and the One Nation MCs. And those guys were doing music. But he had heard of some cats in Petaluma and Santa Rosa named Strictly Dope. And one of the leaders of the band or the group was Ray Love. And also there was a woman named Layla Steinberg. Layla Steinberg was doing shows, and she kind of knew everybody that came through town. She knew all the arts, and anybody who was anybody doing music and coming through Santa Rosa, she knew. And we had heard about her, and she was managing Ray Love and Strictly Dope at the time. So there was a quest to get to meet her, and Tupac finally met her. And the focus went from Marin City and hanging around and girls to let's get to Santa Rosa and mess with these guys who are really practicing for shows, putting set lists together, performing in front of fake audiences in preparation for live audiences, mic checks, guys who are really working hard. And he shifted his focus from, drinking beers and doing house parties to doing something more bigger. And these guys were practicing. They were getting ready for shows with Layla up in Santa Rosa, and Layla happened to know Adrian Gregory, who had a production company that was also managing Digital Underground. Okay, so Tupac started hanging out with Layla, and Layla started introducing him to people, showing them how to be more professional. Layla would send us to places to meet people, and anywhere Tupac wanted to go, I took him. It was like, let's go. And because he didn't drive at the time, but I had the means. And one particular time, she took us to a show in San Jose, and that's when we met Afro Rican and De La Soul, and who else was there? Bunch of hip hop names that were big at the time. Def Jeff, he was kind of running stuff back then, and Tupac auditioned for these dudes. And back then, and even as I started my career, everybody wants to audition, and you get bombarded with this stuff. And I remember the looks on their faces like, okay, yeah, we'll listen. And Tupac spit, like that Panther Power. He spit it. He went in there, and in front of Def Jeff, in front of De La Soul, Afro Rican. They were in our hotel room, and he spit these great raps, and they're like, "Oh, okay, okay," and they kind of ignored him, and they had a chance to sign that guy. But anyway, Layla believed in him.
What would how many songs would he perform?
He just went through like 2 or 3. You know, if I remember, Panther Power was always one of them. Misplaced. He had stuff, you know, or he had some cool stuff, and it was different than anybody else was doing, but it was really, like I said, pro-black.
Did any of them seem interested in Tupac?
They seemed like when we were auditioning for Def Jeff and Afro Rican, De La Soul, a couple other cats that performed at that show in San Jose, it seemed like they were doing their packaged care. Like I've seen it before because I've done it, where you're hyped up on it, like this is the greatest thing I'm hearing, but you hear that they get tapes every day. You know, they hear people every day, and unproduced coming live is different than a finished product. So they go through the steps like they're listening, but obviously nobody called. They had Tupac Shakur in a hotel room performing for them, and they didn't sign him. They didn't hook him up. They didn't do anything with him. So maybe one day they'll see one of these interviews and realize that they had Tupac. They probably don't even know. But,
are those the biggest names he performed for?
Well, shortly after, Layla hooked him up with H and Gregory. H had told Layla, if you ever get somebody worth something, send them to me. And she believed in him, even when no one else did. So what H did was he let him hang around the studio with Digital Underground, Shock G, Humpty Hump, all those guys, you know. And not only did he open his realm of understanding of the music game, he became professional, and he became a roadie with them, and they started letting him record with them. And the first 2 albums they actually produced. And Atron had the masters, and he found Tupac a deal with Interscope. She believed in him. He started working out with Digital Underground, and Digital Underground was closely affiliated with NWA because Atron managed them too. And he started venturing out. And I remember that was cool because NWA was his shit. Like, I liked rap. I loved rap. I listened to Too Short, you know, the Click. You know, I put out records. Some of so we had a little bit of following back around that time. But he loved NWA. You know, he used to sit me down and say, "This is Yella. He writes like this. This is Dre. He makes the beat. He wrote this. He wrote this." He knew all the history of NWA. NWA was pretty hot at the time, but he was, I don't want to say a fan, but he was a study of NWA. And like I said, I think I remember his rap style kind of reminded me of MC Ren back then. But he really knew everything about Dr. Dre. So it really threw me for a loop later on when that whole Dr. Dre thing went out, because he admired Dr. Dre. He taught me a lot about Dr. Dre, you know, before he knew him.
Oh, okay.
So
at one point, Tupac and Digital Underground are working, and I guess they showed up to a party of yours one time.
Oh yeah. Back then, Tupac was getting on. He was dancing. You see him on Arsenio with Digital Underground, and you know, he'd bring me to the studio, and Digital Underground would just welcome anybody Tupac loved, they loved. You know what I'm saying? So Shock and Money B, all those cats showed us nothing but love. Us kids from Marin, we just came in and hung out at the studio, and so it was nothing. I used to throw parties at the time. I used to have these big functions with everybody from Marin. All the kids from Marin would go to these parties and tear up. And told Pac to come to one of my parties, and he showed up with Digital Underground, and it was cool how they came in. It was like they had just finished doing, I think, the movie Nothing But Trouble or something, and they kind of came in with that kind of little look, and they all carrying bats and shit, and that wasn't really their persona. They were Humpty Hump, you know, it was funny. They came in kind of gangster, which was cool, but then they directly went up on stage, rocked the fuck out of the show, rocked my stage for free, killed it, and then walked off. They I don't know, they jammed for about 30 minutes, and then they split.
So at this time, you know, Tupac is kind of blowing up with Digital Underground. He's making a lot of movies. He's been on tour with them. Did he have any record release parties?
Oh yeah. So working on his first album, like I said, I used to have parties, and I did this one club. I think it was called They Did It on a Monday, and this party ended up with crazy stuff happening, doors getting kicked in, people tearing up this club. The club kicked me out. But while I was there, I was playing these videos on the screen and stuff, and Tupac loved this club. So he had Atron, his manager, book that same club for his record release party. And so a couple months later, they threw a party there. But lo and behold, the ownership of the place said, you guys can have a party, but Kendrick can't come because of the fiasco with the girls fighting and stuff at my party. So that's cool. But I went anyway. So when I got there, Atrium met me at the door. You can't come in. Da, da, da. I'm like, what? I'm the one that started. But anyway, so Tupac ran around and he snuck me in the club anyway, the back way. So we partied at his record release party. I had to sneak into the fucking party that I created or I started, gave him an idea. And well, it's cool. We had fun. He debuted his album. Then we all got ready to leave. And he grabs me and says, come in the limo with me. So he has a limo out front. About 6 of us jump in, good old friends. And we decide we're going to go to the studio in Oakland to record some shit. I forgot what the studio was. But we flew over there, but we stopped at a gas station along the way. And all of a sudden, some people from the party that we didn't even know started busting on us in the limo. Pop, 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 pop. We're all in the limo hitting the floor. It was like, I don't know what it was. It was for no reason. We had no beef with nobody. It was just like some jealous motherfuckers who had heard about it and shot us up. We pull over. There's holes all inside the limo. Nobody talks about this. Nobody knows about this. But we got shot up. Everybody was like, no holes in nobody. Let's go to the studio.
Oh, wow.
So that was one of my first, well.
And this wasn't even over no beef or nothing. This was just some random.
Nothing. These cats, maybe they didn't make it into the party. We don't know.
What'd Tupac say after
we got out?
After you guys, after everything happened?
He just like, we ain't shot. Let's go. Mm-hmm. There's no police report. There's no nothing. We just go. I don't know whose limo it was. I don't know who paid for the damage, but none of us got hit.
What kind of songs you guys record that night?
Somebody else was in the studio that night, and we couldn't bogart the session. It was somebody who was bigger at the time, like Spice One or somebody, and so we just hung out. People drank a little bit. Nothing was recorded.
So at this time, Tupac is kind of blowing up. He's working on his own project through Digital Underground.
Yeah.
They're helping him out.
Yeah, he's dropped his first albums.
And you were there when he wrote Brenda's Got a Baby.
Yeah, Brenda's Got a Baby. Well, I had visited him at his, he had an apartment in Oakland, and he called me to come over there. I think might have been Mikey Cooley might have been there, somebody. And just hanging out, and he's looking for his cigarettes. And usually when he's looking for his cigarettes, he's going to go take a shit. So he went to the bathroom, smoked a cigarette, came out with this fucking rap, and he spit it to me. So he wrote, Brenda's Got a Baby, like in a half hour, you know, between shitting and smoking a cigarette, and it was a hit. Classic. And he spit that shit. I think I was one of the first ears to hear it, you know, before the music.
And when did you guys go? Did he record it that night? Or right then and there?
He recorded it with the next day or two. He might have recorded that day because he recorded fast like that, especially at the end. He recorded fast. Back then, you know, he had to think about it, bring his rap book, and go to the studio when they booked. You know, when you're not the head dude, you got to wait for midnight sessions. Like Starlight Studio used to be midnight. Like we'd book out from 12 at night to like 8 in the morning, you know. So he'd wait for his time and then he'd put it down. He put down a whole bunch of songs at once. But I wasn't there when that was recorded.
At one point, Tupac was, I think, walking around, was it Oakland, and he got beat up by the police?
Yeah, he called me right after that. He, little background. Like I said, I came up in Marin County and the police used to harass us. They'd pull us over with no reason, no provocation. And we were good kids. You know, we had done, I guess, some bad things, according to somebody, I guess. But we were good kids. And they would harass us, pull us over, pull us out of our cars, write us bad tickets, all kinds of things. And they knew who I was. So as I learned how to manage through that stuff, I learned how to talk to police, learned how to know my rights, all that kind of stuff. And when Tupac came along, this guy knew more about rights and black issues and what to say to police officers. So Tupac was always like, you know, telling the police off, you can't do this, you can't do this. By the end of the conversation, he's calling them Sambo and Willie and Mr. This and Mr. That, and they're just trying to get the fuck out of there because they're over their head, because he was very versed in the law and how to speak, and he would create audiences so people would start coming and looking. So the police couldn't get away with the stuff they usually did with people like me. And I thought it was cool because back when I thought I was public enemy number one, he would step in and do all the talking for us. So now we could venture off and do all kinds of things. So fast forward to Oakland. Now he's not running around Marin County and Marin City. He's going to Oakland. He lives in Oakland now, and I think he was jaywalking. And I think he tried to tell some cop something about himself, and the cop wasn't having it. You say you can do that stuff over there, but you can't do that shit in Oakland. And they whooped on him. And it was documented. People saw it. They didn't know they were whooping on an upcoming rapper. And he ended up suing. And he won $400,000.
Okay. What did he say when he called you?
I think at that point, when at the level he was at, it came out on the news. So he called me, but I think people were talking about it. Everybody was kind of talking about it. And he just said, it's okay. They got theirs. They got theirs coming. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, you don't mess with the police. Like when he says they got theirs coming, like, what does that mean, you know? And later I saw that he was powerful enough to make things different than us. Like me coming up, the cats I came up with, they get their ass beat and nobody would know or care. This was the first time I saw somebody get their ass beat. That's a dog. It's the first time I saw somebody get their ass beat and do something about it. And people made mention of it. And it was amazing. It's like, really? Tupac had a lot of those really moments. Like, you remember when he got shot? Not when he got shot, but when he shot a cop in the ass and got away with it?
Yeah.
That was Tupac. It's like, what? It was different being a black person next to this guy. It was different being a black person next to Tupac. We were almost, I'm not going to say we ain't free, but it was a different time And at some times, even though we were being great, we had to be second fiddle. Not when Pac was around. We were who we were supposed to be. And that was amazing. That was amazing.
How did Tupac take when he was recording everything? Like, what was his general feel for everything? Was he like excited he was blowing up and getting there? What was he?
There were, rephrase maybe. You're talking about how did he feel as he was recording in the studio, or what was he like during those times?
Yeah, during those times.
Okay. I like to think Tupac's recording sessions and all of his life work were different eras. Like he had an era when he was just hungry. When Shock G made music for him, or Greg Jacobs, when he made music for him, Tupac was focused. He was happy. He liked to bring his friends around. He just wanted to get it done, and he was comfortable. He's in the studio finally. Then there was times when he started getting in trouble. So basically it was him against the world. So he's with this ragtag of dudes he's hanging out with. And now he's found a way. Now people are actually paying him to get on tracks. So he can go to this studio, make a few grand, rapping for this person, or that person would rap on his album. So he's moving around. So now he's part of this ragtag team. And he's like me against the world. And you see how those songs kind of played out. But, he went from happy-go-lucky. And if you listen to his first two albums are all that Panther Power and Strictly for My Niggas and strong black man, that kind of stuff. And the labels really didn't push that stuff too much. But after he started in this me against the world, when he was getting in trouble, he's writing songs that reflected how his heart felt. And you could see the darkness. You could see that he was going against something. And you notice those labels started pushing that stuff. They weren't pushing positive black man stuff on the first two records. But the third and fourth record, when he started talking about beating somebody, shooting somebody, fucking somebody's wife, do it for your jewels, all that kind of shit, they put on the radio. Except for Dear Mama. That was a song, but that also let you feel he had just got put in jail. And that was a heartfelt song that they caught at the right moment. The record label really pushed that, but when you listen to his songs, it really is a reflection of how he was feeling. And another thing, I tell people, early Tupac, he would write about something that he never even seen before. And he would make it so big and vivid and like he'd been there. And then he'd go do it because of what he put on the record gave him the opportunity to go do it. So he'd write about something and then he'd do it, as opposed to doing something then write about it. Like Guns were that way. Romance with Celebrities were that way. Driving, riding, smoking, all that stuff was that way. Jewels, he wrote about it, then he did it. He talked about gold and how he had all this stuff. But he didn't have all that stuff until he wrote about it. So he really kind of he created things and they would come true.
And so at one point you go to New York with him to film Juice?
He called me up. No. I remember he went to go audition. He said, man, I'm going to audition with that girl from En Vogue. Yeah, man. I was a fan of this girl who was in Vogue. Her name was Cindy, because she used to work out on my street. She used to perform, and I used to go see her plays and stuff. And I told him, yeah, I know her, blah, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, she's in the movie, and I'm gonna go audition. And then he told me, hey, I got the part. I'm gonna be out there for a couple weeks, blah, blah, blah. Come on out. So he goes out there, and I fly out there, and he takes me on the set. I meet all the characters and all the actors and stuff, Omar Epps and, all those dudes that were in the show. And we met up with Shock G out there, who was recording this jazz album, or it had some jazz tracks on it. And we were in the studio with Shock G out there. We met up with Naughty by Nature, and
Did you guys hang out and party or do anything?
we went to a movie. we went to movies, ate some McDonald's, and me and Tupac hung out. We hung out at his hotel and shit, but he was, early rise for the Juice. He's filming, so,
You guys were only out there for a couple weeks filming? It only took a few weeks?
Yeah. He might have been out there for maybe a month. It's been a while now. But it was a low-budget film. They gave him 2 checks for Juice, one for $6,000 and one for $9,000.
Really?
And that was big
That's
money for him. And I think that's how he replaced his stolen gold. Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
Um,
And you did all the filming. Did you film anything on the set of Juice?
They let me. I filmed him inside of his. Actually, the first Tupac documentary that came out. I forgot what it was called. Maybe you can flash it up right here. I'll tell you later. But one of the guys that used to come to my studio, one of these guys, one of our supposed friends, stole one of my tapes of us filming out there, but it was me filming him in his trailer, me filming us going to a movie, us meeting up with Shock G, and there's a classic little thing they show on the internet where he goes on and he jams some dude up about the Digital Underground EP release. This is an EP, and Tupac's getting in this little street vendor's ass about his tape, woofing like he's gonna kick his ass and stuff. But I filmed that. I filmed a couple other things. I filmed him in his trailer, filmed us in a van going back and forth. And they use all this stuff in the documentary. And the people call me up, oh, by the way, we got your footage and we used it and blah, blah, blah. Here's some money. And that was it. And I was like, what? So somebody stole my shit, as usual. And they made a whole bunch of money off of that. The whole documentary, nothing in there in that documentary had anything that I didn't film.
I remember seeing it. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember I seen the first 2 documentaries. I know that I think it was the second one where he was kind of talking about his life and everything, and it was kind of like the way they did it. That wasn't yours, right? That was the second one.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think
I've only seen one. It was always hard for me to look. I didn't listen to Tupac music for 15 years. That was hard because it just hit me. Something about it. I couldn't go. Excuse me, but yeah, I watched that one just because my footage was in it, and I didn't really watch anymore. We ended up getting sued for some stuff, and it just showed me anything to do with Tupac was like shady. People who didn't even know him were claiming that they know him. People who obviously knew I knew more than them were citing information that I said without even mentioning me. Not that I was looking for any fame or anything, but it's kind of weird.
They were telling your story.
Telling my story constantly. You hear it all over the place. Like recently, there's the whole Madonna had sex with Tupac thing that everybody's quoting like it's fact, but it actually comes from some letters that he wrote me. And that was later stolen by a lawyer. So it's funny business. The whole Tupac thing, I kind of hold it kind of here because it kind of gets shady at times.
Yeah, the music business in general.
Yeah.
So he films Juice. He comes back, and I believe he gets an apartment in Oakland, East Oakland.
Yep.
And there was a situation where Shock G said that Tupac almost shot one of the outlaws.
You know what? I wasn't there, but I heard about it when he pulled out the big gun, and he almost shot somebody. That's all I heard. I wasn't there, but yeah, I remember.
This when did he start buying guns?
Well, we know that he even said this, and I remember we were doing It's in Details magazine. If anybody wants to look it up, that's the one where he's wearing the brown bandana out in the field, looking like a slave owner or slave, and he's wearing gold in the bathtub. That was an interview we did with Details magazine, and I remember when he said this, I was like, that fucking makes sense. He said, when I did Juice, I put a little bit of myself in the juice, but a lot of juice entered me right then. He said he became the Juice character. Part of it became his persona. And like night and day, he did. He was more gangster then. Some of his funny undertone. He used to be funny all the time. Wherever we went, he was a comedian. Jokes. That was all gone in public. He was a hard dude now. And, you know, in private, he was still himself, at least up until he joined Death Row. But before then, he was still himself. He was ha ha ha. But he was part gangster, ready to jump, ready to do whatever. You know, he had that thought process. And when he said that, that totally made sense. I didn't realize that later till 95 when we were doing the Details interview. But he had been acting that way up until then. You know, you had heard about the shootings and, you know, his character definitely changed. Some of that was good because people used to like bully him and he wasn't having it no more. So you mentioned Oakland. He called me over and showed me his new weapons. Check out this 45, check out blah, 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 blah. I'm not a gun dude, so I'm not impressed, but I do notice the difference. And I do notice he has heat. And the dudes around him were no joke. A couple dudes were musicians. A couple dudes were not playing.
Was there anything that happened that made Tupac buy these guns? That made he felt more threatened or anything?
I know he got robbed. I remember when he first got his first checks or first started getting money, people start helping him out in the streets or whatever. He bought a bunch of silver. He had silver everything. I know he got robbed at some point. I'm not sure where. But after he got robbed, he always had a strap.
Okay. So that was probably something that happened that he felt like he needed to protect himself. He was getting bigger at this point.
He was getting bigger.
He's blowing up. He's becoming more popular.
And he was never going to get
target.
punked again. He was never going to get punked again. Never. You know, he would fight anybody at that point. Before he would cower. But now he's becoming a man. And he's got more to lose. And he's really big on his image, you know. He don't want nobody stepping up to him without knowing they gotta have to go through some shit. And he meant it. He was serious about it. And those first few guns I saw were the beginnings of an elaborate gun collection. You know, by the time him and the youngsters went to Atlanta, he had his whole kit of guns, I heard, infamously. And I got a story about that too, when Suge made me
go get rid of them. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, go get rid of those guns. I saw the beginnings of his gun collection. You know, he wasn't going to be had. And this grew into an extensive gun collection that, of course, he had shipped from Atlanta to LA when things started getting funny style, which I'll probably tell you more about later. But he had these guns shipped to LA and Suge had me get rid of them.
How many guns did he have?
I don't know how many he had. I didn't look.
Like 10, 20?
It was rumored to be more than that.
Really?
He had a little collection, but
so like 50?
I don't know what was sent. I just know it had to go. I didn't look at it. I didn't touch nothing. I didn't see nothing. I just facilitated in it moving somewhere else.
Okay.
He was on parole. I mean probation, or he was on bail.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So he couldn't have that stuff around.
Okay.
But things were getting kind of sketchy. I mean,
this was during Death Row time.
Death Row time. We'll get to there.
Okay.
So yeah, the guns, that was the beginning of his gun collection. I think later on he called them his kids. So when he said get the kids, that's what he meant. Not to be confused with the rap group called the Kids that he was producing.
Okay.
And that was around that time in Oakland. When I went to his house in Oakland, he introduced me to some kids he was producing, and we actually demoed a few of those records in my studio where he actually recorded the tracks, and they were going to sing on them later or rap on them later. But
he was ghostwriting for him.
Ghostwriting for them. And we did a couple of tracks like that. And, you know, I kept those masters for years. Him demoing songs for him and the other song, Days of a Criminal, that he demoed for the other guys. I didn't produce the music or words for any of those tracks, but I recorded them, and I had them in my possession for years.
Okay. We'll get into what happened and everything later. So at one point, you end up going to jail. And is that where you guys kind of separated?
Yeah. I fought a case for so many years. I ended up doing some local probationary time, but basically it was something I didn't do. And Marin County was hell-bent on putting me behind bars. And I finally just pleaded to something that I didn't do. And I ended up doing a little bit of time. And during that time, it felt like me and Tupac had a falling out because I hadn't heard from him. I'd expected to hear from him when I went to prison, and I didn't. And, you know, other people were making it out to be something that it wasn't. And, you know, I spent time reflecting on it, and I was kind of upset for not hearing from him. But now what I know, you know, in hindsight, you know, he's out there being a ragtag celebrity going through a bunch of stuff. And I remember hearing one of his songs on the radio while I was in there, and I didn't realize that the song was about me. He was talking about real G's doing time because the groupie bent the truth and told a lie. And, you know, after years, it finally clicked on me what he was talking about. And I felt something for that without elaborating on it too much. But, you know, I felt he was talking to me then. And that was cool. So after doing my time, I got out, did my probation, parole, whatever it's called. And I went looking for him. I got his address. I think I heard he was at Clinton Correctional Facility in wherever it was, New York. And I wrote him. Man, I got a response so fast. He was so happy. He was telling me, man, how he missed me, how he had thought one thing, people were saying this, and I was telling people saying that. I wrote him back. He was like so happy. He was like, man, we're gonna hook up just like old times once I get out, blah, blah, blah. I might have a plug on getting out. And I'm like, he's not getting out. But he was right. Suge was going up there. As we all know now, Suge helped cut a deal to get him bail on some, you know, on a screwed up case. And he got him out. And, you know, as soon as he touched down, he hit me up and said, hey man, I'm here in LA. I want you to come down. If you want to, come work for me. And I'm like, okay. And I geared up and got ready to go work in LA.
When I interviewed Reggie Wright Jr., the head of security at Death Row, he had mentioned that when Tupac was in jail, he was telling Suge, like, when I get out, I'm going after Bad Boy. I'm going to destroy them, and it's on. Did he ever mention anything like this to you when you guys were writing or anything?
When I got into the fold in LA, I met him and the Outlaws and Big Psych and Bo Nitty, and that was the crew. I know when I was locked up, he was, you know, with his Thug Life crew, and that had disbanded. So now he had this new crew, and I was getting to know those guys. And I remember they were playing the song where he disses his boy about his wife and all that stuff, get money and all that stuff. It was like they took a Bad Boy beat and they flipped it, and they all killed Bad Boy on that track. You know what track I'm talking about? Hit 'Em Up.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is crazy. It was just a whole different vibe for what I was used to from him. You know, it was just like, he's riding on fools. He's just being very brash in a way he wasn't before. And I soon got it, because that was kind of the death row way. And Tupac was now under this umbrella he'd never been under before. He felt like he could be as big and loud and as brash as he wanted to. And I really didn't know the history of why he had funk with Biggie, but I did know the history of back in the day when they used to do shows together, and Tupac put Biggie on. Biggie couldn't get shows. Nobody liked him. And everywhere Tupac went, just like Stretch, Biggie was there. And then finally Bad Boy put Biggie on, and I think there was some resentment that he didn't get the props for putting Biggie on. Sometimes it's kind of like, fuck you for not acknowledging me.
Did he ever mention anything like that to you?
Yeah. Well, he told me about how he put him on and how they used to travel together, but I didn't ask much. When he did this tangent, I remember hearing hit him up, and I was like shocked. I'm in Pac's car listening to this shit. I'm like, it's like when the first time you hear "fuck the police," you're like, can we say that? When the shit he was saying to Bad Boy, it was like, really? And then that's when they explained it's on. You know, like, we got this beef, and this happened, and yeah, it was kind of like Tupac was rolling with it. And that's how Tupac was, man. We could have a conversation, and whatever it is, he'll just take it and run with it and make it bigger than life. You know, like I say, he'll think of something, and then he'll run with it. So it might not have started off that big, but by the time he's done, it's gonna be big.
So as soon as you get there, I assume Tupac is already recording. He's in the process of recording All Eyez on Me.
Yeah, it took me forever to nail him down. I called the number. Where you at, man? Where you at? Come on out here. So I went to LA. I called him. Where are you, man? Where? Finally, it took a couple weeks to nail him down. He's like, come to the studio, man. Come to the studio. So I go out to the studio where they're all at. And it's like, damn, all these celebrities I'm seeing in the news right now, all these rappers, like, they're right here. He's like, man, we're going to Snoop's house. Get in. So we flew to Snoop's house, and we hung out, and everybody's like normal. People are cooking chicken just like at home. And it's different. It's like, on one side, it's fucking celebrity to the moon. The other side is just like the streets that you know. And I kind of just observed and watched. I saw how he was different. I saw how he was bigger than life, but he matched with all these people like the Dog Pound and Snoop and Dre and DJ Quik. And he matched with all these people. In fact, he was kind of big. His personality was even bigger at times. And I forgot where I was headed with that.
So he clicked with him right off the bat.
Right off the bat, he jumped in. And Suge loved it. You could see Suge saw something different in this guy. And he egged it on. He let Tupac be as big as he wanted to be. He put him on a chair and a pedestal to be that big. You know, people say all these negative things about Suge, but I think he really loved that boy. It was because he was seeing something different. Suge had his finger and pulse on celebrities and people with talent all over the place. But this kid was something special, and he saw it.
What was his recording process like when he was recording All Eyez on Me?
So I finally called him up in LA, and he's staying at this Hollywood hotel. And I go in this hotel. He has a one room with nothing but wardrobe and clothes that sponsors just, he only been out of jail for like a month. And he's got all of these clothes and stuff that he's bought. Like rack after rack after rack after rack of leather jackets and coats and clothes from everybody. I'm like, he's just buying like new clothes every day. And it's like, he has like half the album recorded, All Eyez on Me. And that's when he sits me down and tells me what's happening. You know, he says, basically, man, back in the day, you were the dude. I respect that. But now I'm the dude. And you got to respect that. Meaning Tupac. It's like, he's like, I'm like, man, I'm just happy to be here. Death Row, this place is blowing up right now. Death Row is the most iconic label since Motown for black music, and I get to sit and watch. Yeah, I'll take a back seat, and I'll go grab a cup of coffee if you need it, or whatever you need. I'm there. And he's like, yeah. He says all the women are mine. all the stuff are mine now, and you got to respect that. He's like, Suge's gonna want to talk to you. I'm like, Suge's gonna want to talk to me. I didn't know what he was talking about or what to expect, but I said, okay. I started going to the studio, but before I went to the studio, I went to go talk to Suge. And I'm thinking, this is gonna be this crazy moment. Like, I don't know what to expect. I just keep hearing about this guy. And so I'm at the studio, and he had an office actually inside the studio. And once you open the door, it's like red carpet, all this red stuff, and he had this big barbell in the middle of the floor. Like, yeah, this is what I'm bench pressing, motherfuckers. And you walk in there, and you hear so much about him and his history, and he's this cool dude. He says, "What's up, Kendrick?" He had always had like a cigar or whatever. And I guess he knew a little bit about me. Pocket told him a little bit about me, and he was like, "Man, you're gonna help keep Tupac working. You're gonna help keep him. You're gonna do the little things he can't do. You're gonna be his assistant. Just don't go Hollywood." I'm like, "What? Don't go Hollywood." Now that's when you start feeling the vapors, when you start being a big shot in Hollywood. I didn't really have that in me. I had already been a big shot. Now I just wanted to be a small dude learning the record business. And Suge said, "Let's go." So from then I started going to the studio. All Eyez on Me was halfway, 3/4 done. They're putting down tracks, and he's like, Johnny J would come drop a beat, DJ Quik would drop a beat, Dr. Dre would drop some beats, and boom, as soon as the engineer called it up, he started rocking like this. He wrote his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on a piece of paper, 8 for 8 rhymes, 16 bars. Bam, wrote it up real quick, spit it. He write in about 15 minutes, write a rap to that beat, spit it, record it, drop his background vocals, come back and write the next verse, tell whoever he was rapping with, hurry the fuck up. Let's get this shit done. As soon as he spit the last shit, he'd do his little accent tracks, tell Johnny J to throw something else on, and he'd record something else. That fool could record as fast as you could record him.
One take.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I heard that he would do one takes, and that's why
Constantly.
Sometimes his ad libs aren't always
because he don't know it
in
yet.
there.
Because he don't know it yet. There were songs where he'd go perform on tour. He'd have to go listen to the song because he didn't know the song, because he hasn't heard it since the day he wrote it. All Eyez on Me, a lot of those tracks for the tour that we had after that, he'd have to go listen to them because he wrote them that fast, and he'd have to go listen. But then once he listened to them, he had that photographic memory. He's right on it, right again. So he was amazing when it came to writing. His lyrics came from God himself. And he was just amazing. When it came to recording, I've recorded thousands of tracks. I've recorded a few cats that came close to being as diabolical in the studio as him, but never anyone.
So at one point, there's a lot of beef, or it seems like there's beef, and Dog Pound goes to New York, and they shoot the New York video, and their trailer gets shot up.
That was right before I got there.
That was right before you got there.
I heard about that, and I heard there was tensions because of it, and I remember hearing stuff on the radio about it, but it was never really mentioned. It was kind of like it was known that everybody knew, and really I wasn't brought there for banging, so nobody really versed me on stuff. I was brought there just to help him out, so I didn't really stick to that kind of stuff. But I had heard about it.
We hear a lot about Tupac not being happy. Did he ever say anything about his record deals or anything? Throughout his whole time that he wasn't happy with.
What I noticed after I started working as his assistant, showing up with him and being with him all day long, every day, I noticed he wasn't his same happy-go-lucky self. I could tell there was stress. I could tell there was pressure. Suge had spent a lot of money. He had put the best producers around him. He booked out the whole studio for him. He put him in a fucking hotel where we were paying $100 for a hamburger. A glass of water probably cost $10. I don't know, but he gave him everything. Like I said, he knew this artist was great, and he put him on the pedestal, and he held no shorts for Tupac. And anything Tupac wanted, Tupac got. And I knew that Tupac knew that meant business. Tupac had always just dropped records, and they were good because he was good. But this time, he's out on bail, funded by another man or company. He has to produce a double album. He's with celebrity producers he's never been before. Cats we grew up listening to, like E40 and those guys, are flying in to being on his tracks. Anything he asked for, anything he wanted, he got. So I could tell he was visually stressed, but he was in the studio.
So
the stress would drop, and he would get down. But in the meantime, he was smoking lots of weed, and when he didn't have the weed, he was getting angry. He was you could tell, because the way I could tell is he was getting stressed, and I had never seen that before. But the day that album dropped, it went certified platinum, and it was a double album. So he went double platinum with no hip-hop record had ever done on that day. And he was just totally different again. It was like all that stress just dropped. So you knew that's what it was. But that album had been the greatest selling album ever for hip-hop in one day. And he was like back to himself.
You had mentioned that he changed during his time at Death Row. So early on, he was more fun, joking, and when he got to Death Row, it was a lot more serious.
It was serious. It's kind of like when Suge put me in office and said, "No going Hollywood." When he said, "Hey, you got to talk to Suge," I never had to talk to nobody.
Do you think he was happy there?
I think he was in a place that he created, and I think he was happy that he had the power to do that. And I don't think happiness was really what was an option, what he was thinking about. For him, it's like, I desire the work. I've been given the work. Let me do the work. He was a true artist, and he had found the means to get his shit done. It wasn't about happiness. So I won't say he was unhappy. I know like the movie and all that stuff talk about he was unhappy. I think let me tell it another way. I always tell the story of how Tupac always graduated to the next level. He started with the One Nation MCs. He started hanging out with my buddies and kind of took everything that we knew, about the game and women and stuff like that. Then he went to Strictly Dope and he learned how to be a professional rapper. Then he went to Digital Underground and became a professional rapper. Then he went to Death Row and he's on top of the rap food chain. And as each progression, he changed. But at Death Row, he was like kind of at the top, and now he had to listen to another man, And I don't know if he was unhappy, but I know that you could see the pressure. But I will say this, when we go out to eat and when it wasn't all about recording, when it was out just having fun, him and Suge got along like no other, to the point where Suge kind of signed his groups. He's got all these groups doing things, and and these two were boss balling. They're wearing top hats and smoking cigars and acting like they've been friends forever. So I think a lot of the stress came from the workload, and they'll make it out that Suge was a slave driver, but I think he finally found somebody that could travel at the speed he traveled.
So okay, so Tupac he's real stressed out. It seemed like maybe he was just stressed out. He had a lot of pressure. He's out on bail. Mm-hmm. He owes Death Row or Interscope $1 million.
Lots of money.
So he's in debt.
Mm-hmm.
Plus he's got cars, houses, all this other stuff Death Row was giving him. Mm-hmm. What was he like the night before All Eyez on Me dropped?
It was weird. There's a couple weird things happened. The pressure was on, right? And he was like supposed to get his house. He didn't get his house yet, but they moved him into a penthouse on Wilshire. And he was smoking a lot of weed. He was stressed out. And a couple days before the album dropped, we went from being at this Beverly Hills hotel, this beautiful, like I say, $100 hamburger spot. So they moved us to this one a few blocks over. I think it was called the Mondrian or Montrese. It was this colored, checkered hotel next to the House of Blues. And that's like where most of the New York rappers stayed. Like back then you had East Coast, West Coast, but a lot of cats would come in. I'm not going to mention the names at the time, but they'd be at that hotel. You knew where they stayed, and you knew who stayed at what hotels. Death Row moved us into that hotel. And it was the weirdest thing because, like, Pac would never say anything. Pac, Pac would be leaning on a cane and somebody take a cane and then he would act like it was never there. Pac was never one to complain. He knew shit got funny sometimes. He knew there was a reason behind a lot of stuff. But it's like, whatever, this is where we're at. He'd go with it. So they moved us to this hotel and, me and Big Syke and, Mutai, a lot of cats are kind of looking at ourselves like, why are we at this hotel? And it's like, we're done with the album. Or is it over? What the fuck is going on, right? And you can tell Tupac is visibly shaken. He doesn't have an answer for us. If he don't have an answer, we don't ask the question. Because that's when he's kind of moody, This is all uncharted territory for him. So he's like, man, fuck it, Next day, they take us to this big ass suite on Wilshire, this fucking penthouse. And he says, Kendrick, do it up. We order him fish tanks and designers come in and hook it all up and TVs on the wall before they had TVs on the wall. And it's just the contrast. We go from the Hollywood Hotel to this crazy, like where the fuck we're in the war zone, but in California. And then we go to this nice penthouse. So it's like, I don't know what that was. Was that some kind of mind fuck or what? But Tupac rode with it. He was never like fuck this, what is this? Or he was, you know what I'm saying? We slept in mansions and we slept on floors. We went from the range of it all, and it was always cool. And basically, that's how we all were. We had all tasted riches and we had all tasted cockroaches.
Okay, so what was he going through the night of All Eyes on Me?
Yeah, he was nervous. He wasn't himself. He was, real short. When he wasn't himself, you kind of stayed away from him, you know. And I could tell that he was fucked up because that shit was. We didn't know. We heard the songs. Yeah, they're tight. They sound different. He's doing it in a way it hasn't been done before. This is different. Before he was strictly for my niggas. He was pro-black. Then he went to thug life. You know, me against the world. Ragtag band of thugs. Getting down in the streets. Going from city to city. Shooting a cop. Now he's talking about crystal, gold chains, and, having everything. So this album was different. And, California Love had already dropped. So that was out there, and that was doing well. That was Dr. Dre's song. That was supposed to be Dr. Dre's song. Suge made Dre put Pac on it. And there might have been a little animosity because of that. That was Dre's hit. And they gave it to Pac, and he ate it up. And so in your heart, you knew everything was going to be how it was supposed to be. But there's always nervousness. When you drop an album, you don't know what's going to happen. And that shit was the biggest record ever.
So at one point, when you guys were separated, you were in jail, and Tupac was in New York, and he was accused of, I don't know if it was quite rape, or it might have been, there was another word for it, but they called it a sexual assault.
Sexual assault. I remember.
Did he ever ask you about, or did he ever talk to you about this?
Actually, it came up. When I went out to LA, finally caught up with him, and when he was giving me the speech about I got to talk to Suge and that he's the star now, I asked him about it. I'm like, what the fuck's up with that? And he broke down. He said, I'm about to tell you. He said, first of all, I didn't rape nobody. And he told me about the situation. He had met this girl at the club or whatever. She was doing crazy stuff. And
did he mention that she went down on him on the dance floor or anything?
I heard that later. He didn't even mention that part in the story telling me because me and him had so many encounters with women that I already knew what happened. When he says it went down, it went down. And I knew who he was talking about just by how he described it, And he said, I didn't rape nobody. And he said, went back to the hotel he was staying, and cats were out in another room doing something. I don't know if they were playing video games, hanging out or whatever. He had sex with her. He said they did all kinds of stuff. And he fell asleep. He went to sleep. When he woke up, she was in another room having fun with a couple other guys. And she was doing stuff, and I guess he walked in and saw it. And she felt uncomfortable at that point. And whatever, I don't know how it finished up or whatever.
So they were having sex with her?
They were having sex with her.
How many dudes was it?
I don't know. I know it was at least 2. Because I know that much.
Did Tupac like her? Because they had kind of been dating a few times, from what I understand. Or they'd seen each other a few times.
I think if he liked her, he wouldn't have fell asleep. He wouldn't have probably even had nobody else around, She probably was what we used to call a toss-up.
Okay.
Not to say anything bad about this woman. I don't know her. But he told me she was a toss-up. Anyway, they had sex. Then the other guys had sex. And this type of thing wasn't so uncommon with girls like that, promiscuous girls. Promiscuous girls are a dime a dozen, and they came around. And they knew how to say yes and they knew how to say no, but mostly they knew how to say yes. And he saw her with these guys, and it was nothing new. The way he explained it, it was nothing I hadn't seen before. And you know, sometimes what you do comes out. Like if you're a freak, sometimes you're a freak and you do this type of things. You're embarrassed by it, you know. People will listen to your story, especially if it's Tupac. But, you know, when everybody was done, she asked him to walk her to the limo or wherever, cab, to go home. And I think he refused. You know, he was like, you know, I think he was kind of like, for him, sometimes he wants to feel like he's the greatest guy, like the girl or toss up or whatever you want to call her, tramp, won't sleep with anybody else. That's what they do. I'm not saying all women do that, but some women do. And he loses interest, you know, after that. And she probably felt that, and he didn't walk her down thing. And next thing you know, she's called for rape. But he told me, looked me in the eye and said he didn't rape anyone. And I believed him. So, yeah, forget what she says.
What was the effects of him from this? Did he ever talk about that?
Oh, yeah, he did. It burnt him, you know. Part of when you're coming up, part of when you're successful is you have woman attention. Some women are great, some are not so great, but the attention is great. And you kind of open yourself up because you're having all these rock star experiences, but now you're on guard. And I remember we sat down and he says, you know what, my lawyer wants you to have girls sign a contract. I had a contract, a sex contract, that Tupac was to have women he had sex with sign. And I saw him with women. I saw him meet women. I've seen him date women, play with women, have fun with women, go out to dinner with women, have sex with women. And he says, they are telling me I need to have them sign this agreement. And he says, I can't. That takes all the fun out. It's like, if some girl is signing that she's having sex and I'm signing and it's all consensual, there's no fun in that. So he just abandoned that contract and he went on doing what he was doing. And he was never accused of rape again, but he was still the same guy. The women loved him. They went from hating him when he was a kid, not hating him, but avoiding him, to loving him. I've seen girls that wouldn't even talk to him when he was younger. Or all over, you know, stumbling over their words. What does 2 want to do? What is 2? What did his name become 2? It's Tupac, you know? It's like, oh, they would just turn into something else. I'm like, it's crazy. And that was the one thing he said. I think he even said it on the record. He says, when I got fame, I didn't change. You motherfuckers changed. And that was the realest thing, to see people go from trying to kick him underneath a car to trying to give him a car, you know? It was crazy, all because of where the billboards put him, you know? Charts, movies, people changed.
Was he more on his guard with women? Did you ever see, like, how he handled it differently?
No.
No,
No
he
way.
just said, fuck it, I'm just going to be me.
He was more of himself. Like, as far as women goes, you know, fame makes you more of yourself. Money makes you more of who you are. He, after All Eyez on Me dropped, he was a megastar now. You know, he'd been on the news for all kinds of stuff. They're trying to discredit him, but he's bursting out of the mold like we've never seen before. They didn't even know how to broadcast him on the news. You know, he'd take over the interview. And celebrities, I mean, I saw him at the studio leave with major celebrities and go hump.
Anybody you can mention?
It was them wanting him. He didn't have to say much. You know, let's drink this and let's go. It wasn't like he had to talk anybody out of anything. It was never that. It was like they were happy to be around him.
I interviewed Reggie Wright Jr.
Reggie.
And he had mentioned a time when Tupac picked Mary J up.
Ooh.
Were you around during that time?
How much did Reggie tell you?
That's all he. Well, that's all he was around to know.
Oh, okay.
You told a story where you guys had to go pick up Mary J in the middle of the night,
Oh yeah,
or
with
something
KC.
happened.
Yeah, KC and JoJo and Mary was a couple, but they both were wild and out back then. They had a song they were touring. If you think you're lonely now, that's what KC and then she had I'm going down. You know, off that soundtrack, off the Waiting to Excel soundtrack. So they were promoting those two songs and they were touring. So they used to come out to California all the time and hang with us and, you know, be out here. They used to perform at the Grand Slam at Prince Old Club down in LA. And they were down here and they must have got into a fight, you know, because, you know, when you're doing drugs and alcohol, good things usually don't happen. They got into a fight, got into it. Somehow she called Pac, you know, because her and Pac was on the down low cool. And Pac, you know, we had to run over to the Peninsula Hotel. And I remember, I always say she was jumping out of a window, but now I don't think she was jumping out of the window as I think about it. She was just running down the side. The Peninsula is on and has a little street on the side. And she was running down the side street and jumped in the car right quick and jumped in the car and Pac picked her up and took her off. But her and Casey had just had some domestic violence shit going on.
Yeah, I was around.
Where you guys go party? I guess she had a fight. She had a fight with
Yeah, I had
KC.
heard later that she was. I didn't even know that we were working on the two Jodeci songs that were All Eyes on Me. One was How Do You Want It? Devontae Swing produced the track. And no, did they sing on that one?
Yeah, How Do You Want It?
And then there was The Pain.
Okay, yeah.
That was Devontae Swing. I remember Devontae Swing was putting that track together when he was unveiling it for Pac. This track was different. It was Pain, I Came to Feel the Pain, Hardcore to the Brain. You know that song?
Yeah.
He was so nervous. And I'm seeing Devontae and Jodeci for the first time. And these cats are like hella nervous, right? I'm like, you guys are nervous about meeting Tupac? We came up off of listening to you guys' music, you know? And it was crazy how everybody was like that. And Devontae was real nervous. He didn't know if Pac was gonna like that song. Pac loved that beat and just rocked it. He just went in the booth. Soon, he probably started playing it and he walked into the booth. It was like that almost, but
Mary J.
Mary J. We had saw Mary J. earlier. We had went to the mall. Oh, great Mary J. moment, man. Tupac had just got out of jail, and everybody's coming out from everywhere in this mall, like, Pac, man, what's up, man? You out? Obviously, I'm right here. Oh, Pac, you know, it's just like fans of Pac or fans of the whole Death Row movement, but they were brash. They weren't really like, man, I've been listening to your music. They were like, yeah, Death Row, yeah, we part of that. And then nobody noticed Mary J. Blige. She was like wearing this little hat, you know, she was like kind of covered. And we turned around this corner and there was these two little girls. They didn't see the Dog Pound. They didn't see Tupac. They saw Mary J. Blige. And these little girls started trembling. And they started shaking and they started crying when they saw Mary J. Blige. And the contrast was kind of weird. I'm like, that's love right there. And it was like, it was weird for me seeing the contrast. The Tupac thing was so brash, but the Mary J. thing was so intimate. But anyway, Mary J. she was great. She was a sweet woman. She was really kind. She was kind to anybody who noticed her. But yeah, I think they got to become good friends.
Okay. So, in one of your stolen letters, I believe you had mentioned that Tupac talked about Madonna.
Yeah, I didn't tell you about the lawsuit. When we tried to do something after Tupac died, we had put some music out. We were trying to put music out. We never got it out, but somebody kind of screwed us with our intentions of trying to help. But anyway, we had hired a lawyer to assist us. And this lawyer, I told the lawyer about these letters. Remember when Tupac first was in jail and he was about to get out, he wrote me. And she wanted to see these letters. Well, this lawyer said, I want to see them. But since then, she's gone off the grid. Can't find her. I've been trying to call her, look for her, search for her. About to hire a private detective. But in these letters that she stole, or I don't know, Roxanne Fritz, did you steal them? I don't know. What did you do? Can you call me, please? Something. But anyway, information in these letters are more recently starting to surface. Tupac was telling me how when he first got arrested, everybody thought that everybody black was going to help him. He's like, nobody had his back. He said the first person that came to have his back was Madonna. Madonna helped bail him out. Madonna, he was able to call her and hook up with some people to get him out of jail. And then another, and Madonna, obviously, people know, he told me in the letters that he had sex with her. And now everybody's talking about it, even her, I think. And I never had mentioned it before, but this was in the letters. And now this stuff, which had only been in my letters, is now public information. So I don't know if Roxanne has sold them, told people, or what, but it's going around. Stuff
Okay. Well, letters from Tupac to Madonna have leaked. I don't know if you've seen them.
No, I haven't.
You haven't seen them. Okay, so
No, and I didn't have any letters from him to her. I had letters from him and Clinton to me talking about her and detailing some very intimate things. And those letters, the lawyer took, and I'm still trying to find her because they are still my letters. And I will release them all with you once we find Roxanne Fritz.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. In one of the letters that he wrote her, I believe this is when he early on was in jail. Mm-hmm. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said it was hard for a young black man to be with an older white woman. He felt like he would be letting down half the people who made him. Did you guys ever talk about this?
Oh, no, I never heard that.
You never heard that?
I never heard that.
Later, he apologized to her in another letter. Well, I don't know what he was apologizing for, but, he was apologizing to her in a later letter that he wrote her. So I was just wondering if you guys...
I don't know anything about that. I could tell you, I know that sounds like game to me. I like it. He's telling her, we can't be together because of this other extenuating circumstance. And then, he probably apologized later because of how it sounded. But I don't know. I do know this. If you're in prison and you write a letter, it's heartfelt and you mean it. You might not mean that so much when you get out because now you're back to your world, but you get into a space where you mean what you say and you're very open and you're very real. So whatever, if you've seen the print to it, I'm sure he meant it when he was saying it.
Is there any other stories about his music or anything that you can share? Making the music or the music process during the death row times?
It was amazing that, cats like DJ Quik would come in and DJ Quik would sit down with me and tell me all these stories, and they recognized who he was, and just because I knew him, they were just open with me. They knew, they gave me love just because of how they felt for him, and they knew he was a different type of cat. And let me think. Is there something? All Eyes on Me. Did I tell you about one of the times we went to Tower Records and bought couple of tracks, and he called up Johnny J on the phone and said, get down here. Johnny J was like 30 minutes away. He slammed down and come turn his drum machine on and start picking out a beat and putting in a sample or something that Tupac chose. Well, one song Tupac recorded was a song called Unconditional Love. And MC Hammer had come and gone, and he was trying to get back on. So he was kind of romanticizing Death Row, and he came aboard, and you know, we all talked and stuff, and Tupac was gonna write some tracks to put him back on, and Suge was all over it. We went and picked it out, and I recorded it. I'm gonna show you guys all this video pretty soon of him recording a song called Unconditional Love from start to finish, and see Johnny J making a beat. Rest in peace, Johnny J. Rest in peace, Tupac. Wow, a lot of people in that room. At least 4 people in that room are dead now. It's crazy. And the music comes on, the guitar player's playing, and I capture all the vibe that beat brought. And you know, Johnny J and Tupac are bantering around. I got some funny stuff on that, and they create a hit called Unconditional Love. And you know, later it got released and it didn't sound like it did, but it was all right. But the original song was made for MC Hammer. Tupac went in and ghost wrote, just like he did before at my house and stuff like that. He'd go in, spit the trap, then they give it to MC Hammer. MC Hammer came along and recorded it later. I never heard that version, but there was a problem with MC Hammer's label wouldn't let him be with Death Row, so the song got shelved. But I recorded the whole thing. I have a video that I'm probably going to release with my documentary.
So you got the whole session.
The whole session of making.
How long is it? How long is it?
Probably about that song. Probably was about an hour.
An hour. That'd be pretty. I think the fans would like that to see like the
would
whole
the
process of Tupac making a song.
Yeah,
that would be pretty dope.
I'm gonna give you a clip to put in here about that. I'm gonna send that to you.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
So during this time in Death Row, there's a lot of drama. You know.
Which time in Death Row? Which
the
part?
whole time. Probably.
Death Row. So Death Row, yeah, there always was a drama. There's always something to keep you on edge a little bit. You know, something was always off kilter. You hear about something, it didn't affect you, so it doesn't matter. But it was always on the edge, being like this West Coast, East Coast thing. You get revved up about it, and like, what the fuck is that? You know, why are we banging and these are millionaires? You know, what the fuck's going on? But you're still happy to be a part of it.
What were the meetings like?
Let me see which meetings. You must be talking about like the New Orleans meeting.
I'm not sure. I was just curious about any of them.
Only meeting I ever was officially a part of, like as far as when Suge brought me in his office and he said, "Don't go Hollywood. See you later, Kendrick. Here's your phone." That was my only meeting as far as a meeting go. But you know, there was always somebody being called in the office to straighten out something or fix something or talk about something. You know, if that's what you're talking about.
Oh, I don't know.
I never really sat
into some meetings or something.
I sat into meetings. Tupac and Suge would go to breakfast. You know, we go to Roscoe's Chickens and Waffles for breakfast, or Monty's Seafood and Steak for dinner, and that kind of meeting. It wasn't business. It was just food and fun. You know.
How was their relationship when they were around each other? Tupac and Suge.
It was interesting, man. It was like Suge had found the artist that he always wanted. You know, he's a stand-up. I mean, don't get me wrong. Snoop was that too. Snoop was that type of artist, but he had got another artist of that level. You know, and he helped create Snoop's status. But Tupac came from his own build, and it was like Tupac had this artist that he understood that came from a different walk of life than he understood. Because all of us from the Bay, we had a Bay Area swag. Oakland, San Francisco, player type swag. Boss player type swag. Suge and them had that, that LBC banging LA type, thing, which was a little bit different. It's a different type of swag. And Suge appreciated Tupac's swag. And I think Tupac, he finally had like a father figure. Like Tupac was building his own thing and he was like in control. He finally had somebody who he could hand over the reins to. And he liked sitting there. He was like a prince to Suge's king. He's like, I'm ready to roll. I'm part of this. It's a family that I always wanted. And, they partied like rock stars and they worked like successful rock stars. So I think it was positive. Later I hear negative stuff, but I never saw that with Tupac and Suge.
Knowing there were Tupac and how he was around people, so you think the love was genuine then, when he would be around Suge? Was it like a business thing, or was it like a fun thing with Suge?
I think Tupac made it fun. I think Suge saw something he never saw before. It's like I say, us Bay Area cats, we swing a little bit different. It's like there's a flamboyance, there's a confidence thing, there's a whole different set of building blocks to us. Nothing to belittle Southern California cats. They got their own swag. That's a different thing they stand on. And Tupac swung it. He had seen Tony come up, Hammer come up, and now he was the next thing, and he was big, and he was saying who he was, and he's got with this machine from the West Side, and it felt great, and I think they were with it, and I think Suge loved Pac.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like Tupac and Death Row. It just seemed like it was meant to be.
Yeah, it was like, man, and that's what Suge was good at, finding that thing, and he saw it, and once it was that, yeah, it seemed like it was perfect.
Did you ever see him around Dr. Dre?
Dr. Dre came in the building a few times. We were there. Things got kind of iffy, kind of weird. Like when I first got there, California Love was on the radio. They had shot the video a few days before I arrived, and everything was great. All this music that I hear on these 2-inch reels was Dre's music. The tracks were changing constantly, and Dre was part of it, but Dre was not in the studio. I noticed that. Then I noticed we went on this tour, and Dre wasn't on the tour. He didn't go with us. And Dre and Snoop were supposed to go, but there was some legalities with Snoop. The Dog Pound went, and it was kind of weird that Dre wasn't there because we had rehearsals and sets designed for Dre, and he wasn't there. And it's weird. And I told you before that Tupac was a Dre fan coming up before he got into the game. I got this tape you guys are gonna see where I'm teaching Tupac how to drive a car, and he's teaching me how to listen to NWA. He's talking about Dr. Dre and telling me stuff I did not know, didn't understand, and that was his dude. And then one day he came up to me and said, "We kicking Dre off the row." What? It was another one of those bombshells that just happened in Hollywood. I'm like, what? You talking about the greatest producer ever? Tupac's just kidding. I know he is. Then later in the day, some shit comes on MTV, and I think we were doing an interview for MTV. That's what it was, and that's where he kind of announced it, that Dre has left the row. And I'm like, what? And then you guys all know what happened, the history of it. But it was crazy to me that Dr. Dre, an iconic figure, the greatest producer of hip hop ever, that we all grew up loving, and no matter what, even when him and Cube broke up, we still loved them all. And Pac was finally under this thing, and it was splitting up, and he was going with Suge part of it. When Dre was the greatest producer he had loved, as a child, it was just, that blew me away. And that's when I knew something, that to me, that was the beginning of the end. Something was wrong. When you ask a question and the wrong answer keeps popping up in your head, you kind of like, what? So for me, that was kind of like the beginning of the end. For me, not of death row, but it don't make sense no more. It's like when you see your homie starting to act different, you talk to him, hey Pac, what? And then he doesn't respond to that no more. You know what I'm saying?
So he never talked about Dr. Dre with you?
He talked to him that day. He came down from a meeting with Suge. We were at some hotel meeting MTV. Suge came through. Suge talked to Pac and said, Dre is off the road. I mean, if you go back, I'll tell you the exact day it was. If you go back, Tupac does an interview with Bill Bellamy for MTV News. Sorry about my dog.
It's okay.
Bill Bellamy comes and interviews us. And so whatever day they produced that was the day that Pac came down from this hotel and said, Dre is off the road. And I'm just like, what? He's like, because he's a motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, my God.
What was he saying about Dre?
What he said is not very politically correct these days. But we've heard it all. I'm sure you heard the stories. I don't know how true it was.
Out of nowhere, though.
Out of nowhere.
Or at least for you.
For me, we're running behind Dre. We're playing his music. The 2-inch reels are going from here to here with Dre music, pocket spitting on them. Dre's leading the show. Dre's half of Death Row. Remember, we knew Dre. We didn't even know who Suge Knight was. Then all of a sudden, they're a team, Death Row Records. Now you're telling me Dre is gone. And and that's how Tupac was. He's rolling with it.
Do you think it was just Suge's influence over Pac that brought him to this point? Do you think because Suge and Pac became so close that Tupac was just like, whoever Suge's with, I'm with, or whoever Suge's against, I'm against?
Tupac is loyal like that. Tupac will change up on you, but while he's loyal to you, he's as loyal as he gets. And I think this is what people need to consider. When Tupac was sitting in that fucking cell for some shit he didn't do, all those Eyez and Warner Brothers affiliates and Interscope people and even the fucking manager dude, just forgot his name that quick, but he was his first manager. He was Digital Underground's manager. Yeah. None of them tried to bail him out. None of them even tried to fix it. When a man fucking gets you out of prison, you're in prison. Prison ain't shit. He got him out of prison. Your thing is, let's go. I'm gonna run through a building for you. You're the only motherfucker that believed in me. When all these other powerful people did nothing. It was obviously possible, right? Suge did that.
Yeah.
Say what you wanna. And there's a lot of loyalty that comes with that. There's a lot of, he might have signed a contract with a red suit motherfucker in prison. I would have signed that shit too. And I would have recorded 5 albums for his ass. And did whatever else. Non-sexually. Run somebody over in a Jeep, maybe. You know what I'm saying? That goes a long way. Everybody had abandoned Pac. So Pac's allegiance, whether he wanted to do it, whether he loved to do it, didn't matter. He should have done it, and that's what he did. And at the end, let me throw something else in there. So Pac moved into his penthouse, and Pac really wanted to do some stuff. Now his reputation changed. He's a boss millionaire. He's doing everything flamboyant. He really wants to start a label called Euthanasia. to help kids and mothers. He really wanted to do some positive stuff. And, you know, to fund this label, he had to get some of his advancement or some of his money from Suge. And it was weird. When we go get the money wasn't coming. It's like, you know, here's some money in your pocket. That money came fast. But when I went to go get money for this label, this new label, it was hard going. So we had to kind of get that going from scratch. A lot of my money went out of my pocket to move people and do things and get this apartment we turned into an office for him. And he really wanted to start this label called Euthanasia Records. And that was going to be positive. It was going to be connected to community things. And he really saw himself going over the edge as an artist this way. So he wanted to give back this way. And that never got to happen.
So speaking of that, recently Nipsey Hussle has passed away. And when he passed away, we learned about all the good things he was doing for his community. And a lot of people would say that, you know, Tupac rapped about it. But he died when he was only 25.
He tried to do it.
He didn't get the chance.
No, he was trying to do it.
These things.
He tried to do it. Yaki Gaddafi's mom came out. You know, we got her out here. She moved into that office. I said I was a part of bringing that. We didn't get any death row funding, but she moved in. She started working. I hired another girl to help her, and they started moving his stuff. And they started getting things off the ground, but it never came to fruition.
Tell me a little bit more about his plan for it. Like, what was it, a studio? Was it for music? Was it for kids for the city? What was his plan?
All he told me was it was going to be community based. He was going to give back. He was going to start a record label to bring up and sign positive artists to pretty much do what his original intentions were. Like I told you before, his original intentions were Panther Power. He used to wear this necklace around his neck that was the shape of Africa. Everything was, you know, the African colors. And he was pro-Afrocentric. He was pro-black, and he was wise. And that message got deleted almost. You never heard any of that, you know, in the later records. You heard Hit 'Em Up. You heard How Does It Feel? You know, How Do You Want It? And all that positive stuff he was doing was getting overlooked. And he wanted a voice for it. He wanted this label to stand up and be heard.
That is dope. Because Tupac doesn't get the credit for doing things.
Anybody?
People don't know.
Yeah. All you got to do is go back and listen to his demos, his first 2 albums, and really listen to what he's saying. And that's who he wanted to be. Then you listen to other stuff. I think that's what Warner Brothers wants us all to be. That later stuff, I think that's what Warner Brothers, well, I can't speak on Warner Brothers. But look at any of it. Look at the history of the music. It's somebody else's concept, somebody else in these offices to think these things and want these things. And we can go to the studio and print 100 records. They're going to print 3 that talks about us killing each other and shooting each other. And he figured out what masters they were picking, and he put whipped cream on those motherfuckers. That's my opinion.
Right.
Yes.
Did it bother Tupac that Suge didn't want to help him? Or, I don't want to say he didn't want to, but he didn't.
Here's the thing, I've thought about it over the years. Like I say, I go get, Tupac would call, we'd be, me and Suge and Tupac be at the house, and Tupac would call his brother-in-law and say, hey, Kendrick is coming to the house, coming to the office to pick up money. It might be 10 grand, it might be 2 grand, whatever it is. When it was just money for Tupac to spend or whatever, I go to the office and here you go, Kendrick, envelope, as soon as I walk in the door. But when we were trying to get the euthanasia stuff together, we go and I go into the office and it'd be like, I didn't know you were coming. What? Let me call Suge. I can't reach him. It's right down the street at the fucking penthouse, at Pac's house. And it's like, something would happen. Maybe there was an inflection in his voice, because he'd say the same thing. Kendrick is coming to pick up the money, have him this. Kendrick is coming. But one of them, they would act like I wasn't coming. The other one, they'd act like I was coming. I'm like, okay, what the fuck's the difference? And as soon as they say no, I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm not in this fucking room begging for money. You got the money, I'll take it. You don't got the money, I'm out. I got something else to do. Excuse me. And that would happen. So at first I was like, you know what? Suge don't want Pac to do that shit. Maybe he don't. He wants to get in the way. But later, as a grown-ass man thinking about it, I told you about those other artists. I told you off camera. Me as being a record label and recording artist, recording cats from the street. You know, everybody has dreams of making it, but they don't know what the work it takes to put in. And somebody like Suge, you know, takes the dog pound and he keeps them on the straight and narrow. He takes suckers who come in who are just playing and he weeds them out, whatever way he does that. But the thing is, Suge knew how to manage talent, especially talent that didn't create itself, talent that he had to nurture. So my point is, he's got this multi-millionaire artist that's dropping platinum records. Is it to his benefit to keep him focused on his career? Or is it beneficial for him to go out and have guns ordered up or start a different business, you know? And was it a distraction, you know? Or did you offer me a piece of it? You know, whatever. From a business stance, I can see where, you know, some of the shit that Suge did was genius. As an older man, I look at that shit and I'm like, yeah, some of it is kind of foolish. You know, everybody was learning.
So at one point, I think you guys are on a tour. Mm-hmm. I think it might be the All Eyez on Me tour. And you guys go out partying in a club, and some guys start disrespecting you.
Oh, Cleveland, yeah. I think this is my first time out. We do Cleveland. We show up at Cleveland. The plane's an hour late, and it's snowing like a mug. I think it's a Saturday night. It's sold out. I've never been to the Cavaliers Stadium, but we go in there. We're doing sound checks, and Suge says, "You know what? Let's do the show on Sunday." That's another one of those things. I'm like, how in the fuck? Wait, let me go back a little bit. We were all late getting on this plane because somebody wasn't there, Michelle or somebody, and they held the plane for us. You know, it's a commercial flight. When that shit has to go, this is how powerful Death Row was. All the people in the line, you know, you wait in line for it and they say, oh, it's a bad motor. Everybody thought it was some bullshit with the plane. As soon as we arrive, we load the plane, plane's ready to go. We're like an hour and a half late. So that was the start of it. Then we go to Cleveland and he says, let's do the show on a Sunday. So I don't know how many fans that is, 40,000, 50,000, whatever. They've sold out for that show. They told them all to come back the next day. And they did. Death Row was popping that much. You know, on a Sunday, a work night. And that was amazing to me. It's like, they called Suge Simon, because Simon says. Okay. But I thought that was kind of interesting. But so that night, we said, let's go out and blow off some steam. So we head to this nightclub. I think we jumped in 2 cabs. Maybe it was me, Danny Boy, a couple outlaws. Maybe security was there, maybe. We all jumped out. We went into this club. We got to this club. Line outside. We bypassed the line. They let us in. This place is packed. People are dancing like this. You know, it's like, we're walking through, and that's when people are like, Tupac. Oh, shit. Everybody's looking. And this is kind of like, you know, the height of that East Coast, West Coast shit. I don't know where these people stand. But we walked into that shit, and then all of a sudden I hear, fuck that nigga Tupac, coming from this way. The first thing I thought of is, damn, I ain't never been kicked in the face. But all these people go crazy in here. I'm getting kicked in the face. So everybody's kind of like hunching up, getting their space together. Actually, me in my mind. But I'm noticing all these cats around me ain't even flinching, ain't even like getting ready. You know, they're just like. So you hear the person say something else, like somebody else say something. Then everybody in the fucking crowd beat the shit out of motherfuckers talking shit about Pac. And we went back to clubbing. And it was over. I'm like, that was crazy. So what I got out of that is you can hear all the shit on the news, East versus West. Just like Snoop says at the Source of Words. Y'all don't love Death Row, y'all don't love Snoop. Fans love these guys, whether it be Biggie, whether it be Pac, the fans love them, and that's all that mattered. All that other bullshit is just hype to sell records, hype to make people think things, hype to create a movement. But in that moment, the fans loved Tupac, and they'd never seen him before, and they was glad that he was in their house.
What was Tupac saying when everything?
He didn't even flinch. He didn't even flinch. He'd been through this. This was my first time.
Were you guys thinking it's about to go down? You guys
I was thinking it was about to go down because I've seen shit like that. I've been in clubs. I've been in fights where everything went chaotic. So I'm like, damn. And usually I'm the home crowd. So I seen people get kicked in the mouth. I ain't never been part of the away crowd. So I'm like, damn, that's how it's going down. Well, I'm about to get fucked up, but we got to go out swinging, you know? And Pac, none of them flinch because they've been through it. It ain't the hype. What you hear, it ain't that. Everybody beat the shit out of that dude talking shit. And I think Pac went in, grabbed him one to go, and we left.
Okay, so you guys are in Cleveland, and you guys rescheduled the show. Is that the night where you guys ran into Bone the next night?
Yep.
So there's a lot of beef. Well, Bone and Death Row, I don't know if it had like real beef, but they kind of dissed each other.
And I didn't know about their beef. I didn't know about their beef at the time, but I had heard.
Well, you knew, Eazy-E and Dr. Dre.
Yeah, I knew that, but I didn't know they had beef with Pac's to say. So Pac said, "Hey man, I heard these cats been talking shit." He spit in my ear. Be on the lookout, you know.
You guys talk about this before you guys went to Cleveland?
Not as a group. Pac, as an individual, said to me that one of these guys had said something to somebody else, and I think that was documented. And we might have funk. And as a show of respect, Bone Thugs and Harmony came to the show early. They came to the dressing room, and they gave us the warmest regards. Everybody hugged. There was no beef. Classy dudes. They put that noise that we had heard to rest because it was noise. You hear a lot of noise, you know, and everybody tells everybody, but it was nothing. They were some stand-up dudes.
You had mentioned that Curtis Blow wanted to meet Tupac.
Curtis Blow. Okay.
Was that from the Digital Underground days, or was that from the Death? No, that was the Death Row days. Because Tupac is Death.
Yeah, this was.
Was that the Saturday Night Live weekend? No.
This was. We were, like I said, we had moved from that hotel to the other hotel that we didn't like to the suite on Wilshire, and we decided to go out to the club because I had met these promoters, these Brazilian girls. They were off the hook promoters. They were just dope. They knew everybody, and she said, "Please bring your boy." So I said, "Pac, let's go." He came. We went to this club, and when we got to the club, they were playing old school hip hop and stuff, and Curtis Blow was in there sipping on a drink, and he was hella blitz, man, and he saw us come in. I think it was like 3 or 4 of us, and Curtis Blow came up to me and said, "Oh man, I seen you with your dude, man. I just love that old school stuff he put on his album, man. Yeah, I just want to have a drink with your boy, you know." And this was like the height of the East Coast, West Coast thing. And I went up to Pac and I said, "Man, Curtis Blow's over there, man. He wants to holler at you, man." He's like, "Fuck those New York mother." I'm like, "What?" Curtis Blow, This is the dirt of hip hop. This is the ground level. You know, this is before we was even listening to this shit. We was listening to this shit. You know, and it was like that was another one of those things like the Dr. Dre thing. Like it's like, okay, he's at a whole different level. He's somewhere else. He's not that kid that used to sleep on my couch. He's boss balling, and he's filling the role, and he's doing. I'm sure he loved Curtis Blow, and I'm sure he didn't really feel like what he's saying, but what he said to me was impactful. He loved saying impactful shit, and it blew me away when he said that. And I'm like, Curtis Blow, that's one of the godfathers of what we do, you know? That's hip hop, and Curtis Blow was bound down to him. He's like, fuck that nigga. But that to me, I think there was girls around, and I think he was playing his role. And him and Curtis Blow probably knew each other or met again or whatever, met at an equal term. I guess, I don't know. But that blew me away. I'm like, wow. When you can say fuck you to somebody like Curtis Blow, you're there.
Yeah. Did you guys ever talk about it? Did you ever ask him like, yo, dude, what's up, man?
Nope. Because a lot of things were happening like that. I'm seeing, you know, people I've never seen before. Like I said, me and lots of celebrities are sleeping. That's mine, sorry. Me and celebrities are sleeping on floors of mansions, you know, like what the fuck? It's like, it was a crazy lifestyle. So Hollywood is Hollyweird, man. You see shit and you're like, what the fuck? And that was one of them. I'm like, wow, did he just shun Curtis Blow? These are the breaks. You know, so I don't know.
Did you ever party with Mike Tyson?
No, but I met Mike Tyson. I'm on the stage, I think it's Cleveland. Yeah. Somewhere. And I'm on stage, like back where the crowd can't see you, but you're physically on the stage. And Tupac comes over and introduces me to Mike Tyson. Like, I don't know if it was warm up or during the actual, no, warm up he introduced me. And I'm like, God damn, right next to Mike Tyson. Huh. Okay. And then Mike was like, man, he liked one of our dancers. So Dre wasn't there, so he took one of our dancers in Dre's dressing room, beat him up real quick, and then came back out and hung next to me on stage.
Mike Tyson did?
Mike Tyson beat her up to one of his dancers. I mean, she was like, she's beautiful. It's funny. It's just fame. You know what I'm saying? There's no rape. This is a icon, Mike Tyson. All he had to say is to his homie. He said something to her. She did like this and walked away with him. You know, that's nothing. You know, that's how it goes. And Tyson came back a little while later, and the show started. And he was on stage, and Pac was spitting, and Pac acts different around different people. So he's around Tyson, so he's acting tough to the crowd. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. He's ready to jump out in the crowd to fight with somebody. And Tyson, you could see him being like, you could tell if some dude jumped up there, Tyson would have hit him. It wasn't like, it's like, what the fuck is going on right now? And Tupac was doing the same shit. Suddenly, I forgot the cat's name, but one of the cats who had rapped in Thug Life was out in the crowd, got his attention. Pac called him up, and he was on stage with him, like two homies from way back. And that calmed everything down. The show went back to being cool, and he rocked it, and they loved him. But it was just weird how Mike Tyson, he brought the energy because of Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson was ready to fuck somebody up. I'm like, he's not even getting paid millions for this.
At one point during the Bad Boy and Death Row, the beef, I interviewed Reggie Wright Jr.
Reggie.
And when he was talking about when he was around during the East and West beef, that the night that he's hooked up with Faith, or everybody says.
I was there in the studio. I don't know if I ever said a fact. All I ever said, and if I did, let me clarify it, is they were sitting in a little, we call it a red room. It's like a little private room that's no bigger than a bathroom. They had a little couch in there. That's where niggas would go, either whoop on somebody or mainly to go and hook up with a chick. And he was sitting in that room. For some reason, I was going into that room or just checking around, doing studio checks and all. And they were in there, and he was pushing, at that time, hit her head down towards his genitals. That's all I saw.
That he walked in
California.
In California.
Okay.
That he walked in on Tupac and Faith, and it looked like she was giving him head.
Whoa.
Did Tupac ever discuss Faith with you or anything?
No, but I hung out with Pac and Faith and someone else.
You hung out with them together?
Yeah.
Before they hooked up, or?
I never physically seen them naked, but yeah, things might have transpired, and happened, but I don't know. I was busy hooking up myself with somebody else.
All right, so I think you guys were in New Orleans at one point,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a situation with Suge fighting somebody, or I don't know if it was a meeting or you guys. I don't know.
Oh wow, let me see. How do I tell that story? I've told it a bunch of times, but got to give it justice. There was a situation where one of the dancers, the aforementioned dancers, were out there on Bourbon Street hanging out, and apparently they got into it with some other girls, and we all had crew, all the different groups, and I think one of the guys that was working with DJ Quik or bodyguarding with DJ Quik just happened to be walking by when some shit happened. I don't think he was a part of it, had anything to do with it. I don't even think he realized some shit was happening. It's just one of the girls had mentioned they saw him walking by. So we're all at this hotel, and all of a sudden we get this big summons. Simon want to see everybody. So everybody's like, what's going on now? So we all get up to this room, and you know, all of us Tupac people with Tupac, DJ Quik people are hanging out. This crew is over here, this crew is over here. Just different groups were on that tour. And he called the girl up to the front and said, bitch, what happened? And she said, these bitches, da 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 da. She started telling her story. And we all, I don't know what's going on. We're all fucking nervous. We're all in this fucking room. What the fuck is going on? Some beef, what's happening? Somebody getting sent home, what? So he gets in her face. I'm like, he's about to knock this broad out. He said, I see you wearing red. How long you been wearing that red? She said, all my motherfucking life. What? She's in his face. I'm like, he said, right on, right on. So he walked away from her, and he got on the phone. He spent about 30 minutes. We're all sitting there listening to him talk to somebody about some business and shit. And he's talking. Finally, he hangs up the phone. He said, hey, bro, come here. Bam! Threw this motherfucker's head through the wall.
This was just a random dude?
There's a dude who witnessed the shit that the girls just described, them getting into it with another girl. And I'm like, this shit just got real. And he's like, you know, a lot of y'all not taking care of your own crews. Y'all should be handling y'all shit. You know, I'm trying to do a Suge voice right now. No, I think, yeah, that happened before he was talking about Pac and his crew. He said, my crew is handled. We handle ourselves. That's Pac speaking up for me and the Outlaws or whatever. And then Then that's when DJ Quik said, "Oh, you talking about me? You talking about me? I'm not handling my shit." DJ Quik gets up and proceeds to start whooping the shit out of this dude. This dude is bigger than Quik. He takes him out in the hallway and start beating the shit out of this dude because it looked like his dude was weak. Now, mind you, this dude had did nothing, but he was the focus right now. And DJ Quik took him outside and whooped his ass. I mean, whooped him. And at the time, you're like, damn, that's fucked up. And you know the dude didn't do nothing. But I saw two things. Suge was setting the tone for people being loose, you know. And the second thing was what it didn't look like, but what I understood later was that dude, DJ Quik, was saving his life because Suge was about to fuck him up, make an example out of him. And DJ Quik beat him. This guy could have fought DJ Quik. I won't say beat the shit out of him. I don't know how DJ Quik throws in things, but he was obviously overmatched. This guy was like a bodyguard. And he took an ass whooping from DJ Quik. But DJ Quik saving his boy's life. I don't know, I'm not gonna say life like kill him, but the tension was there and somebody was getting an example made. And that's how it ended. And he changed the whole tone, you know? So that was one of those things. That's one of those things that pop up. You're like, what the fuck? What the fuck just happened? Everything's great. We all got money in our pockets. We just had shrimp and lobster, and we're part of the greatest musical show that's touring right now. And people are getting their heads thrown through walls for no reason. But again, that's that tone. He took a bunch of people from the ghetto and made them household names. And sometimes the ghetto don't travel like people who grew up going to musical theater, you know.
Did you guys ever talk about this? Was Tupac like...
Not a word.
Not a word.
Most of the things that happened we never talked about. Just some other shit. Some other random shit. Every day was a different, random, crazy, bigger than life day. With some grounded ass motherfuckers. We all had a grounded background. So that's where that Don't Go Hollywood thing comes into play.
So at one point, you guys make your way out to New York. And I think this is when Tupac...
That wasn't part of the tour. Talking about the Saturday Night Live thing?
Yep. And you want to take me through it? Through your experience?
Without mentioning other people. We talked about this earlier. I'm gonna tell you how I felt in the situation. It was one of those situations where somebody is about to make an example. And I think we went to Benihana's and we were having like this big ass snow fight in the middle of fucking Manhattan, some restaurant. And I'm like, we had just been told in LA that we're going into enemy territory, be on point. Cops got weapons, we got more security than we normally have. And now we're all out here playing snowball fight. And I'm like telling myself, this ain't how it was sold to us. And it didn't make any sense, And that was further part of it, the whole death row mystique. Some of it was publicity and marketing, and some of it was real. And you never know when was what. But I remember when we got there, somebody made a joke, like, Kendrick been talking to the police. And that was like the recurring joke when we would all say something like that, because here we are this entity. We all have street backgrounds, but the people walking around with us are police officers. So it became a joke. You're talking to the police, huh? Something like that. So we're riding up to this suite and somebody says, Kendrick, you've been talking to the police. So not uncommon, we're all in this elevator and everybody in the elevator start jostling, like fighting and playing around. We did it time and time again. Me and Tupac and Big Psych would fight the Outlaws. It always was some jostling. People were always playing around, blowing off steam. But this particular time, we were all fucking around. I'm pushing people back. Somebody caught me. Pow, uppercut in the gut. I was like, this shit got real. And I was like, you know, is that a message? Is that some, you know, is it somebody sending me a message? What the fuck was that? I didn't know who did it because there's so many people in the elevator, but somebody caught me. Everybody else was just playing around because everybody else genuinely liked me. I'm a likable dude. I don't have no problems with nobody, but somebody hit me, somebody stole. So that was either somebody doing something stupid on their own because they could and they didn't like me maybe, or maybe somebody told somebody to do that. Like I say, I'm in Hollywood, this weird ass shit where shit goes. You just kind of roll with it. And I'm like, okay, catch me when we get off the elevator. I'm not no tough guy, but I'm like, yeah, nobody fessed up to it. And then, so we all go upstairs and everybody's up there playing and shit, shenanigans. And incident happened I told you about. And I'm like, man, I don't know who hit me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what point they're trying to make. And Tupac didn't come up. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I went to 2Pac's room and told him what was going on. And he got upset about it. Like, you let him hit you? You let him do this? Like, well, what the fuck you want us to do? Kick 17 motherfuckers' asses? You want me to, you know about this label just like I know about it. And in that moment, how Tupac was overacting, how he was tripping, like same thing happened kind of like in New Orleans where he was like, yeah, he would overcompensate to act like he was in charge just so he didn't have to confront Suge, so he let Suge do whatever he wanted to. So at this point, I felt like I'm entering the playing field and that's not what I signed up for. So I told him I quit. I left. That's when it was over for me. When he did not have my back, I was done.
Did you feel like the Tupac didn't really have control of these things? Or do you feel like he wanted to have your back, but it was just nothing he could do?
I feel like trying to have my back or everybody's back, because a lot of people came and gone. And I felt like somewhere in the wash, he didn't even act like, instead of acting like, damn, that's fucked up, there's nothing I can do, instead of speaking about the elephant in the room, he's just like, nah, that's how we do it on the road. This new set of rules became a Bible that he followed, but he didn't know where it was going either. Shit would just be like off and he went with it, And later I realized, maybe that's Suge don't want people close to him around him. And so they kind of pick with you. And I feel like Tupac he can't tell Suge, don't fuck with my homies. Don't talk to my homies. He can't do that. He'd be like, just act like it didn't happen, So I felt sorry for him in the moment. When I looked at him and he had nothing to say, I knew he couldn't. I felt he was being weak with who he was being at the moment, and I didn't like it. And see, like I was saying, there was like a few times, like getting the money, going to pick up the money for him and his company. Him not saying anything, not standing up for it, moving to that hotel or New York Central when it's supposed to be New York, didn't say anything. Suge ruffling my feathers. Never said nothing, It was like I knew his hands were tied and I knew that he was loyal to who got him out of jail. And I knew this was his dream, but it wasn't mine, I still had things back in Sacramento. I still had things. I had money. I wasn't broke. I wasn't like a crony. I was somebody who genuinely wanted to be part of the record business. And my homie, one of my best homies, homie I fed and slept around and womanized with and learned things and taught things to, was in a situation that he did not control. And I couldn't be controlled by a person that was controlled by another person. So I left.
All right.
And pretty much that was it for me with Death Row. And, I talked to Tupac a few times after that. Then he got killed.
And so you leave Death Row, and you guys are still obviously still cool and talking.
Yeah.
And then he gets shot in Las Vegas. What happens then? Did you call? Did you talk to anybody when you found out?
Okay, so I had talked to him a few times. I called him up at his house, and he's like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" You know, he didn't sound like good old Tupac. He sounded like, concerned. Hey, how you doing, man? And I don't know who felt sorry for who. It was like you're in that world. It's like kind of like you connect in the minds. I'm like, I know he's not where he wants to be, even though he accepts it. He's glad for it. He appreciates it. But there's a piece of himself that's missing. And I can hear that in his voice when we talk. And he asked me, am I okay? I said, I'm great, because I'm doing things I want to do. And I said, are you okay? He said, yep. And then we hung up. And I think, I don't know how much later, a few weeks later, a few months later, maybe it was a few weeks, I don't know. I just know I was hanging out, and then the news came on that he got shot. And I was like, wow, he's got shot before. This is what he does,
That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought that. I thought that. Everybody, every fan, every person says the same thing. He just got shot a couple years ago. He's gonna be fine. It's no big deal. Tupac, he's always in something, and he always makes it.
Man. And so I hurry up. I call up this chick, Molly. Molly, I hired her to do his laundry when I was his assistant. And when I left, she started being his business assistant. She wasn't out in the streets with him like me, but she kind of handled his affairs. And she gave me the updates. I said, should I go to Vegas? She told me no. Then I called, I don't know if she called me or I called her. And she said, he woke up. And I said, what? She said, yeah, he's awake. So I hang up the phone. I tell all my homies, everybody's like, my house is full of people, like, what's going on? And it was my apartment. And we're all hanging out. All of a sudden the news comes on, Pac is dead, like a half hour after she told me he woke up.
What the hell? That's weird.
Weird. And for years I thought, because of what transpired later with the lawsuit and stuff and me getting sued because I sent something to her, I thought maybe she was hating. I thought she just said that. But more recently I heard that he actually opened his eyes a few times during that whole thing. So I don't know anything about that, but years I thought she was just an evil, dirty bitch. Come to find out she's just a evil bitch. So
Okay.
she might have been telling the truth for once.
Check yourself.
I think you said in the early that you couldn't listen to his music for a long time, so that had a big effect on you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember when he got shot, I locked myself in the room, and just listened to one song for hours and hours and hours. And then once he died, I didn't listen to him again for like 10 years. stuff would come on the radio, I would leave the room or turn it off. It's kind of weird. This is like, I'm a total Prince fan, as you can see from some of my stuff. I just now began being able to listen to Prince because I'm not connected with his music. But for Tupac, he's my friend, and it's weird. I've had a lot of friends die, but something that was different about the fact of how huge he was, how much of an impact he was on my life as well as other lives, and how much he rose, and how much not only did he move people, but how much of the stuff he got from me was in him. I was connected to his person, and part of me was gone, just like some other people around me close. It's like really strong. He left an impact on me. You know, I knew him from this shiny 17-year-old to the greatest rapper on the planet. You know, taught him how to drive a stick shift. You know, he taught me how to cook fried chicken. Let's talk about his cooking. People don't know Tupac was one of the best soul food cooks ever. Friday nights, yeah, he had me order food from New Orleans. Can get me a lobster, some soft shell crabs, some crabs. He'd have all this stuff ordered. I ordered it from when we were in New Orleans. We'd go to the airport, this fresh seafood place, order that shit in. They fly it in one day, and he'd cook for his mom, his niece, nephews, family. The whole place would be full of outlaws, and he'd cook seafood. He taught me how to fry chicken. I make the best chicken, but it wasn't from my parents I learned, it was from him. When he used to stay on my couch, he used to cook. When I was just a player by myself, before he moved to my couch, I would eat stovetop stuffing and barbecue pork chops whenever I wasn't eating fast food. That's it. He's like, man, we going to Safeway. He took me, bought chicken, vegetables, showed me how to cook all this shit, man. I'm like, man, let's call up some bitches. Nah, man, let's cook this shit. And that was one thing. He was a better cook than he was a rapper. And he was the greatest rapper on the planet.
Wow. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about that before.
Well, thank you. Glad I could come up with something original.
That's dope. All right, so at this point, you know, Tupac passes away, and you have letters, and you have all these things of Tupac. Well, that are yours, but of Tupac, letters, videos.
Some of it is mine that I took. Videos, like from our times in New York before he came up, our times after he came up, our times just in the middle of stuff. Him doing Unconditional Love, us fucking around doing scenes and shit at Thug Mansion, or what we called the Outlaws Apartments. We did all kinds of shit. I was always shooting stuff. And also there were masters, like...
you had the masters to the first song he ever did.
Mm-hmm. It was the guys I mentioned, you know.
Do you still have the master? Do you still have that master?
I gave the masters to his mom.
Okay. All of the masters?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was interesting. So I had videos, I had music masters, and what else did I have? I had pictures and stuff like that.
So they borrowed the masters from you, or how did they get the masters from you?
No. What happened was, we watching MTV, Tupac dies, and MTV is reporting that Afeni, Tupac's mom, is broke. And, you know, I saw how Death Row operated. She ain't getting no money, but she hired some very good lawyers. And what we didn't know is they got a lot of money, more than Tupac was even getting. But at the time, we thought she was indigent. We thought she didn't have any money. So a couple producers in Sacramento came at me and said, hey, man, what if you remix some of that music that you have, that's Tupac on the reels? And mind you, Days of a Criminal, the beat was Gable's, and the music was paid for by those 4 rappers that he wrote for. So I didn't own it, but I was the caretaker. I kept it. I had those reels. The stuff he did for the kids was my producing Big D's music and my recordings. So I owned the recordings. And then that's all I have. So we sent a flyer. I asked Molly, the girl I hired to clean his laundry. I said, hey, we want to do something for his mom. What can we do? How do we do something? Somebody mocked up a flyer of this tribute to Tupac. And we're like, let's put it together. I want Finney's input. Tell us what we can do to make this right for her. We're going to do this and we're going to give her the money. I sent this flyer to an address Molly told me to send it. And within 2 weeks, I got a certified mail that I was being sued. And mind you, we hadn't put it together yet. We just put a flyer together to give her an idea what we wanted to do. It wasn't even real. But being a dumb kid, you know, they sued us. We go to a lawyer, same lawyer that borrowed or whatever she's doing with my Tupac letters still to this day. Gives us advice on how to fight the lawsuit. So we're fighting the family on this lawsuit, and this thing is blowing up. News start coming to the studio, like, you know, interviewing us, and really all we want to do is help. That's it. We just wanted, what can we do to raise money to help? And they sued us, saying, what about these masters? They deposed us. They sent us these interviews at these lawyers' offices. And when we would go to these lawyers' office, I walk in there, and they got drawing boards of, see, this is in Sacramento. The real lawyers were in LA, but they had these lawyers deposing us in Sacramento. They got fucking Tupac stick figures saying stupid anti-rap bullshit. They're saying they were mocking Tupac, making fun of him, but these are the people who were taking our statements. So it's like, they had no respect for Tupac. Now, these lawyers did good because they cleaned up. And my whole thing was, I thought I was on a righteous path. I thought I was doing right, and I was going to stand up for what I wanted to do no matter what. And it just went too far. What I didn't know, and my ignorance, naivete, fucking made me not figure it out till somebody just recently interviewed me and told me that's their track record. They stole a lot of people's shit. So they got me into court. I had no money to fight them. The masters came up and they were threatening to sue. And at the time, a lot of my father, who's dead now, a lot of his property was in my name. I'm broke as hell, but I own millions of dollars worth of property. My father owns 7 pieces of property in San Francisco in my name. So they're threatening to not take it, but that's all in the lawsuit. So I just want it to be over. And they're bullying me. And this was never my fucking intentions. So they're putting us through this, all these ringers. What I experience tells me now that same lawyer who's got my Madonna letters helped ease it through. Like sometimes you have a lawyer that's working on your side, and sometimes you have a lawyer that's working on somebody else's side. And you never know which it is. But now I kind of know. Anyway, we agreed. A Finney? Whatever the fuck she wants. She wants these records? She can have them. She wants this? Never been a greedy man. I've had lots of money. I've been rich and I've been poor. But I've never been greedy. I said, she can have this. I just want to sit down and talk to her. They say, yeah. What I don't know is the people behind her, certain people that perhaps washed laundry, filled her head up with other shit. That's what I thought at the time. But what I find out is that's what the lawyers know how to do this shit. They had her come yell at me for some shit I didn't do. That set me up to just want to have a conversation with her to straighten it out. Make sure my integrity is told. So I agreed for a sit down with her. 20 years later, the sit down never happened and she dies. And somebody says that's how they used to do it. You know, and like I said, it's Tupac shit. I didn't come into this world to make money off of Tupac, and I appreciate knowing him. I appreciate being a part of him, but my whole thing was never to get rich off of Tupac. I loved him. He loved me. That's it. And all these other people, everybody else attached to Tupac, they all wanted something. You've heard my story through other people who never even knew Tupac. And that's how it goes. Everybody wants a dime. Everybody, and I never got to sit down with her. The person who I think I helped get gainful employment could have squashed this shit. But I think she had a vendetta against me for some reason. Because she never let that meeting happen. I never talked to Finney. And they stole those masters, some of which were my recordings.
So some of these recordings you own.
Yeah.
And they...
Or partially owned.
So you never got...
The recording is owned by several people who recorded it, who owns it, who bought it, who paid for it, who produced it, who is signed off on it, and who's on it.
So to release anything, they would still need you to sign off on it.
Legally, I would think so. Because I just handed it to them. But we never had an agreement.
And they never, so there was no agreement, they never did their part of the deal.
The Days of a Criminal things, I've seen the original producer, Clark Gable, I think he got paid some money. Everybody was smiling when she was around. I just saw my boy Danka, he got an award. He got a plaque, I think. So maybe it did come out on something. But he got a plaque, and it's weird. Like my other boy, he was at the same studio session I was at when we all screamed on a track for Grand Theft Auto. And because there wasn't licensing back then, or it wasn't deals written, they sent him a check every year for royalties. So I've been a part of those early sessions with that. I've been a part of Days of a Criminal. I've been a part of every major recording studio he's been at. And my name's not anything, and I've never been compensated. Except for some guy sending me a random check. But
for the video.
Yeah. And nothing I've ever been a part of, or, and for me, it's just bad business. Everybody, I saw more ugly than love when Tupac died.
Yeah. So do you think that's the reason why they haven't released any more music at this time? Because they got to get a bunch of signatures?
I think a lot of shit happened. I think when Finney's lawyers and her and whoever were gathering this surplus of all his stuff, basically snatching stuff out of the hands of the people who fucking took bullets with him, who fed him and clothed him during the years while they were taking all these things. They got swindled. Some guy, I think, married her and took some of her stuff. So the state got the state's still going, but maybe they're waiting for another wave. But I know they got more music.
Yeah, I think we've heard about it. Yeah. That we it's coming. There's more music coming, but it never comes.
I personally heard other songs. It was torture hearing all those Eminem songs, man, because they were fat before he remixed them. But they probably had to take the music off because they probably were stealing. They didn't want to go pay Big D and all those guys. All the shit from Digital Underground, all those people put in years of work, risked their lives as well as everybody. They probably didn't want to pay them or negotiate with them. So they just said, hey, let's do this, Lyrics were great. Music was crappy. Well, I can't say that. Some of it was good.
Yeah, I think that was the one album that came out after he passed away that I didn't really connect with it. I think the first two, the one he did with the Outlaws, I liked, and then there was the double disc that I liked, but the Eminem one, I don't know.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. He had discovered his niche. I told you the record companies honed in on the boss baller shit, you know, from the double album, all that kind of stuff with the homies. He was talking about shooting up shit. A Hail Mary, you know, all that kind of shit. He was big. He figured out who he was. But all those masters that you heard in that album was back from like his first 2 albums when he was talking righteous stuff. He's talking about positive stuff with women. He's talking about all that shit was positive shit. It wasn't like that. And he wasn't honed. He didn't have all those voices and stuff that he had at the end. So it was really like his first 2 albums. It was the stuff the record companies rejected because he wasn't belittling people and demeaning women.
Well, I appreciate you, man. This has been a
man.
great interview.
I appreciate you interviewing me. Like I said, so many people told my story without, you know, I got a lot of stuff in here. If you ever want more, let me know. I appreciate you telling the story. And that's all I want. I just want people to know about my boy because he was great.
Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything you got coming up?
Like I said, I got a lot of footage. I'm going to do a documentary soon. Maybe I'm writing some stuff right now. So wherever that goes, you know, keep in touch with me, everybody. Follow me, look for me.
Do you got an Instagram?
Stop.
Facebook?
I don't want you making friends with me on Facebook because I don't know who you are. I'm getting a lot of that kind of stuff. But just watch. When the time comes, come back to this, man. I'm going to plug it. And there's going to be a plug in here for something I'm doing. So, cool.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.